Good morning, subscribers, patients, and visionaries. My name is Johan van Zyl, and if you're new to my channel, thank you for being here. And today we're going to talk about what type of tests your optometrist should be doing if you, as a patient, suspect that you might have difficult eyes. Now, let's just quickly recap. This is a previous video I made where a patient asked me, how would I know as a patient if I have difficult eyes? And she literally just hit me out the park with that simple question. So I've made a video on what type of symptoms you can expect to have if you might have difficult eyes. And let's just quickly recap. So there's 4 basic categories of symptoms that you might encounter if you fall under what I call in my head a patient that's got difficult eyes. So the first one is ocular symptoms. And the main one there is eyeball awareness. You just feel something is not hot with your eyes. Something is going on with your eyeballs. They're red or they're tearing or whatever. Something is not right with your eyes. So normally when you look at ocular symptoms, eyeball awareness symptoms, something is going on and it's like an increase of awareness. So if things are going well with your body, most often you don't know that you've got an arm or a leg. But before there's pain, if it's a chronic problem, very often you'll find an increase of awareness. So ocular awareness, eyeball awareness. Ocular symptoms are the first one. The second symptom that you might experience as a patient, which I classify as having difficult eyes, is if you have vision problems. So your vision is unstable. Some days you're seeing better than other days. If you close the 2 eyes, they're not the same, be it for distance or for close. But something is going on with your vision. The third symptom we look at is what we call postural stability. And of course, any type of postural changes, head tilts, balance, things like that, because your vision eventually it goes down and affects your body as well. And then the fourth and the most important symptom that we look at is your ability to absorb information, because that is why your vision is your primary sense. It gives you the most information per time unit. So if you're looking at things and you're going like staring and nothing's happening at the top, nothing's going on, that's one of the key things where we might indicate that something is going wrong. Now, very often we will also find patients in our practice that come to us for a second opinion. As they've been to their routine optometrist and the findings were, no, there's nothing the matter, it's all fine. But you as a patient, you know that something is going on. Things are not happy. Something is going on. And this is sometimes the most frustrating thing which patients experience, is that you go to your optometrist, you know something is going on, but the normal tests doesn't indicate what the precise problem is or what's going on. So have a look at my video on do you think you might have difficult eyes? What type of symptoms you might have? And now for today's video, we're going to focus on what type of tests, the most basic tests your optometrist should be doing if you suspect that you might have difficult eyes. Now, the first thing I tell my patients is that look for somebody that's prepared to spend some time with you. Because if your vision is important, then you want to actually make sure that somebody takes time to go and listen to you and try and find out what is going on with you. Because it can be 1,001 things, literally. And our job is to try and puzzle them together. Where is the problem? Is it a functional problem? Is it a prescription problem? Is it a medical problem? Is it a medicine problem? What is going on? And you need time for that. So if you go to somebody that spends 15 or 20 minutes, I can promise you it's not going to work. So the first thing is look for somebody, most often a private optometrist, that's actually going to spend some time with you. Because I think by this time, if you have got some eyeball awareness, you might have got glasses already a couple of times. I think you might have realized that buying spectacles doesn't actually always mean buying good vision. There's a big difference. So if you are just looking to buy some spectacles, well, go to anybody. But if you are looking to maybe buy some vision, you need to find the right person that'll actually do the job that you are now interested in. Because, as I said, I think in my brain, there's a big difference. Personally, spectacles form part of our treatment program in the practice, but they are certainly not the only thing that we do. So most of our patients require attention on visual therapy, glasses, sometimes even referring to other professions for problems which was picked up in the practice. So if we now go to the basic eye test, and as I said, we've now developed a form, and I like to put things in this form very simply because it forces me to logically go from one to the next so that I don't skip anything. Now, the first thing that we do is we look at your case history, your general health, and your medicine. Now, I'll rather spend 5 or 10 minutes extra with case history than maybe miss something and waste your time or my time and land up spending thousands of rands because I didn't spend enough time on my case history. So in my mind is spend some time now, know mostly have a very good idea of what you're looking for by the time that you've actually done your case history. Because if you don't know what the heck's going on, by the time that you've done your case history, you're in trouble. Because there's many tests that you can be doing as optometrist, and you simply don't have time for every single one. You need to know in which area I must be focusing my examination for this patient. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a couple of hours on each patient if you want to do literally every single test. So we spend at least 10 or 15 minutes with our case history. So I need to know precisely what's going on. And our average consultation time in the practice is between 45 minutes and an hour, simply because most of my patients have got difficult eyes. This is what we do in the practice. Sometimes we find a patient coming in with a routine. What's the problem? No, it's just routine. And yes, sometimes it is routine. But sometimes we can actually get an unexpected result because some of these tests has never been done actually on the patient. So after now doing the case history and looking at your general health and looking at the medicines that you're using, and all of these things are very important because medicines, especially as you grow older, can severely affect your vision. And a lot of them has got unintended side effects, which very often you're not aware of. And it might be that is what's giving you the problems, why you have this eyeball awareness or why you have vision fluctuations, why you're sometimes staring at things and that information isn't going into your mind. So after doing that, we're now looking at your old prescription. So, and we check, of course, your aided and what we call unaided vision. But we would not actually go and read off or determine your old prescription. I would just literally take your glasses off your face, put them on my desk, and I would only check your old prescription after I've done my own examination. For the simple reason that I feel that if you actually test your old glasses or know the prescription before the time, before you examine a patient, you might be biased, get a little bit lazy, or maybe in a bit of a rush and you don't actually do all the tests because you know what the old prescription was. So in our practice, I don't do this. We don't do this at all. We make sure that we test your eyes with a unbiased, clean mind, that we test your eyes, literally. We make sure that we're not actually going on somebody else's either mistake or not mistake. We don't do that. Um, so the first part of our examination is our external examination. So as we put you down in our chair, I actually have a good look at your eyes, how you blink, the eyeball size. We check the eye movements. Convergence we will leave till a bit later when we do your prescription in the trial frame. But we have a good look at your eyes, because if the eyeballs are, for example, different sizes, it can be a thyroid problem that you have, it can be your medicines as well. So we firstly just look at you. What's your head posture? How's your eyes? Are they red? Are they teary? And if need be, we would do a slit lamp examination. But again, that we would do a little bit later in the examination. I just want to have a good look at you first. Look at your posture, look at your head, how your head is tilted, look how you're blinking. Be sure that I'm actually focusing my attention on your eyeballs, on the outside, and also then we check the muscles, check the muscle range. We make sure that your eyes can move in all the primary directions of gaze. And this is why I like this form of mine, because if you go to somebody and there's no logical sequence, you can see this is like the most basic eye examination actually that, you can see it's like, even this is a whole page. Now, very often, if you're in a rush, you might not do one of these tests if you don't actually have them listed. And this is the problem. If you go to somebody and there's not a logical form which they have to complete, they might not land up doing all the tests which you might need to have done on you. And this might be one of the reasons why you then go to somebody and they tell you, listen, there's no real problem. We're not finding anything untoward. Now, the next test that we would do after now doing your external examination and your motilities, and we check your pupils, are they equal, the same? There's a whole range of pupil tests we do. We now go to retinoscopy. Now, retinoscopy is my favorite objective examination in the practice. Now, retinoscopy is a thing like this. This is a retinoscope. And we can actually, it's a beam retinoscope. You can see it's called a streak. And we can, move this thing around. You can see that. And we can move it up and down and sideways. And this is a really magic test that as optometrists we have in our toolkit, if I can put it like that. Very often, I'm quite amazed that many patients have never had this done on them. Now, I can't actually just about test a patient if I don't use my retinoscope, because it tells me what's going on with their vision without them having to tell me. Just for interesting sake, it's the only test that you can do if a patient's got Alzheimer's or dementia, because you can't put them behind a computer. So this test, this objective test, is where we start. And obviously, we've got no lenses in our phoropter. And then I can actually see how good or how bad your eyes are just by shining this light in your eyes, which is actually, to think about it, magical. And how does this work? Very simply, your eye is like a living mirror. And if you imagine standing in front of the cleanest, best mirror, there's no spots on the mirror. If you stand in front of the mirror, what do you expect to see? You expect to see yourself. No distortions, no warpage, no spots, because that is the cleanest, clearest mirror that you've now standing in front. Now, this is what I expect. If you have good vision, you are young, you don't have any cataracts, you don't have any prescription, because your eye is like a perfect living mirror. But most often what we do see is we see a change in reflection. And that change in reflection now we can interpret, are you long-sighted, short-sighted, are you hyperopic, are you myopic, do you have astigmatism? We can all determine this just by shining this light in your eyes. Quite crazy, isn't it? And of course, we can also see if there's any disturbance in the amount of light that gets reflected. Is the light beam that's going in, is it the same coming out just about? Because it's, as I said, a living mirror. If there's not, you might have cataracts, your cornea might be a little bit dull, you might have some dry eye, you might have some corneal edema. We can all actually interpret this just by shining this light in your eye. And this is why we don't actually use autorefractors in the practice, because I like to see what's going on with my patient's eyes. I like to do this type of thing so that, they can sit back and relax. And I tell them, just sit in my chair. Imagine you're sitting on a couch, gazing out across the sea, and I'm going to be a little bit shining a light in your eyes. And of course, for the children, it's great for them as well because they don't have to give me an answer. Now, this is where we start in the practice. We do retinoscopy. Now, after retinoscopy, we've now basically determined to a high degree of accuracy the patient's prescription already. Now we move on to what most people know, which is the subjective examination. Now, if you look at my form here, you'll see it says retinoscopy, ret, and then it goes 7A, right and left. Now, 7A is the test name that we now do the subjective examination that has the lens which is give you the most plus, so your eyes can relax with the clearest vision. It's called number 7A. And we now basically refine the objective result into the subjective. So we double check everything. There's certain balance tests that we do. We use red and green. Some tests we call Van Grave. We do like a cover test even. So there's lots of tests that we do during the subjective test. So we use the objective test and we use then the subjective test. And sometimes they can be quite different results. And of course, now, after we've now done this objective examination and the subjective examination, I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on with your prescription. But we still haven't done any balancing really. And now, once I've done all of that, we actually now at this point, we go and read off your old spectacles. So we take your old glasses and we go and read them off. And now we've got the following. We've got at least an objective examination, a result, subjective examination, and we have 1 or 2 pairs of old glasses. So we've got all this information, and we now actually build you a new prescription in this thing. It's called a trial frame. Again, I want to see what's going on with your eyes because we use the trial frame for doing all our binocular vision testing. Because I want to see what's going on with your eyes, how they're moving. There's certain tests that I can basically only do properly using the trial frame. And as I tell my patients, I can do many things, but I can't see through your eyes. Now, when we do these tests, I always tell my patients, I want you to compare the lenses that I'm showing you and compare the lenses in the following manner. Not just what lens is the clearest, but also comfort. So I tell my patients, I want a happy balance between clarity and comfort. When you give me your answer, look at how does it look? How does it feel? What lens is the best? And this is one of the things that we now take all of these different results and we now start figuring out, what is going to work for you. Because if there's a big variation and difference, sometimes we can't give you the full change straight away because you've become good. This is what I tell my patients. You've become good at seeing bad. And now I have to build you some new glasses. I'm going to make you some new spectacles and hopefully get you to become good at seeing good again. But that's the fine art part in our profession, because we look at all of these things. We look at your eyeballs, look at the vision, look at the posture, look at your vision absorption, and now we're now starting to build you a pair of glasses that you can look through, and you can like give me an idea of how you're seeing, how you're feeling, and we don't just check it in our examination room here, which by the way is 6 meters long, because only after 6 meters does your eyes truly start to relax. So small rooms, you have to be pretty careful that you know what you're going on, because there's sometimes quite a big difference with a test result in a small consultation room versus a larger consultation room. And even then, when we check our hunters or our golfers, we at the golf village here in Somerset West, when we test them, we put them at the window so they can actually look out on the golf driving range. And sometimes we do find 1 or 2 step change, so that the prescription for 6 meters isn't the same as for 400 or 500 meters. And this is why we build a new prescription for you in a trial frame, because now we're starting to do the final figuring out what your new prescription has to be, so that you can like see clearly and comfortably and not have all these difficult eye symptoms. So we use this trial frame, and now we also do a more balancing, binocular balancing. And of course, if you look at our form here, the one thing we still haven't done is what they call the near point of convergence. So we look at convergence, and now we use your new glasses and we check, can you do this sky nose exercise of mine? And very often we do find that if you grow older, your ability to converge and to sustain your convergence is compromised, especially if you've had cataract operations. Now, I couldn't find a lot of science on this matter, but it's a well-known fact in our profession that the internal eye lens actually activates one of the medial rectus muscles, so that when the eye is focusing, the brain has learned that if it's focusing here, it also needs to turn in. But what I noticed when I had my retinal detachment and then I had a cataract done as well, I noticed that my convergence started to struggle. So I suspect that even if you grow older, just the mere fact that your eye is trying to focus actually stimulates the medial rectus and assists the convergence. Now remember that when you are older, over 45 or 50, with multifocals, they assume that you are actually looking parallel, and when you're looking close, your eyes are coming in and basically in a V and converging. Now, sometimes this doesn't happen. So this is why we specifically check the convergence on all our patients. And we've actually found some children that developed learning problems that couldn't converge. And it's something that wasn't done. We all assume that you can actually, like, look at your nose, but sometimes people can't. And this is, again, why I like going through my whole list of examinations. And this is, as I said, one of the most basic, this is the basic eye tests that you should be doing in your practice. So after we've done, like, all our different tests, we'll now figure out a final prescription for you, and we'll write the final prescription here. And this is now the prescription. We've now built you a pair of glasses in our trial frame. We've made sure you can see far, you can see close. We've checked the focusing system. We've checked the binocular system. Any prisms we'll add to this as well to get your eyes aligned. And this is now your final prescription. But we're not finished yet, because now we start doing the internal examination. And this is like the ophthalmoscopy part, where we again shine a light directly into your eyes. And sometimes we do a dilated eye examination using a Volk lens if we suspect there's something at the back of the eye, not 100%. Again, there's a very simple test that you can do as a patient. This is a top of a shaving cream holder. I've made a little hole in this thing. Now, if you think you've got a vision problem, you want to know if it's serious or not, you just make a little hole in the top like this and hold the whole part close to your eye. If you can see better through the hole, most likely you only need some right glasses. But if you can't see better through the hole, you might need some more serious assistance. And we use a pinhole test in the practice quite often as well. Now, after doing all of these examinations, and as I said, this is really the most basic that you can do, that you should be doing. And if you can do all of this in less than half an hour, you're pretty good, I would imagine. Now we've worked out what type of prescription you need. And now, again, the final part is trying to find the right frames for you. Because frames and doing the measurements for your glasses are critically important. I can give you the best prescription, but if I don't do all the measurements correctly, where the optical centers are, if I don't do all the measurements correctly, and for example, this is how a multifocal lens blank looks. You can see it's quite a thick thing. Now, if we don't do all the measurements 100% correctly, you still won't be seeing properly. So every pair of glasses, I tell my patients, people don't think about this, is handmade, very often by 3 or 4 or 5 pairs of hands. Is in South Africa fully imported, every single thing, frames and lenses. So it's actually a work of art. And if you can then pick up your glasses and within half an hour, if you were squint before the time and see single, and you'll see there's quite a couple of patients of mine that's actually been able to achieve that, then it's just about close to a miracle. So yes, at the end of the day, I think that from an optometrist point of view, you need to decide, what are you doing? Are you in the selling spectacles business, or are you in the selling vision business? And the same applies to patients, because optometrists, we are dictated by patients' behavior. And do you want to buy glasses, or do you want to see? Do you want to buy vision? And there's a very big difference in my mind between those two things. And especially as you grow older, I think people only then realize how important their vision is, because everything else starts to work less. Maybe it has less function. You move less. You have more problem, moving around. But you expect your eyes to work harder and for longer. And then people actually realize that, your vision is one of those senses that you need to look after. But you don't want to wake up one day when you're like, in my case, just about gone blind. And it took me about 6 or 7 days flat on my stomach to realize why I didn't see this coming. You don't want to go there. You want to try and prevent problems. And this is what this channel is about. Trying to be as preventative as possible with simple, easy to understand, hopefully, advice. What you as a patient can do to try and improve and maintain your vision as long as possible, and to have clear and comfortable vision, binocular vision.